trust. We have a heart to know the truth. And trust is a distraction from that. I can see that. Trust is an indoctrinative view to sway away from the truth and get people to expect and live in anger. I agree. Man, the natural trust that's within us, it's been misused. The natural commitment and devotion that's within us, along with the trust. That's what gets children to raise their hands and go off to war. Their trust and their oath. Praise God, right? I had I had this idea playing loosely with the concepts, and if you just allow us to flow a little bit, you know, loosely with the concepts. In the beginning, God creates, we'll start with the heavens, and there's all the angels there above. And then there's this one egoic one that gets in his head. He wants to take over. So Lucifer starts to divide the wholeness that God had already created. And through that manipulation and deception, creating the divide creates the war. Well, God's like, no, not in my house. Kick it downstairs. So kicks Lucifer down to the limited form here in earth, still has his power and his knowing of what is real and what is not. And then somewhere along the lines, mankind got in its head that it's okay to tell lies as long as there's a good enough reason. And then with the lies that people started selling, they developed into these different characters. And the next thing you know, there's bankers, bankers setting all the rules for everybody's methods of exchange. And then you got to have governments to protect the investments and the banks. And then, golly gee, next thing you know, we got people like Joe Biden, Donald Trump running the things around here. We're clearly the land of the confused. I'm speaking as an American. I don't mean to disparage, but
So no, it's all good. So what's interesting about that is you could even go further back to the IMF and to the
yeah,
entire global situation. Again, that's a whole nother topic for another time, I
it
feel
is.
like. But it's about understanding that. I think the machine lies said it also. The very few were never meant to be the ones in charge of anything. You know, the perfect system, I've always said, is consensus, right? Because if you have 100 people and 5 people don't agree, we have to be able to understand and figure that out. And a
Mm-hmm.
slim majority of 51%, that's nothing, because you're basically saying that I'm willing to have half the people involved in the process not be happy with the outcome. And then we go back to the numbers. What numbers really signify, and how well do we represent each other and ourselves? You know,
Mm-hmm.
every vote, every voice, every thought should count. It doesn't matter if you're the captain of the ship or you're down below in steerage. It shouldn't matter at all. Every vote, every voice, every opinion counts, because we're all in this together. Whether or not you have the wherewithal to contribute 100% to the pot. One of my favorite stories is Stone Soup. And that is, interestingly enough, a universal story. All cultures have it. And the concept is pretty simple. A village is having a famine, and an old man walks into the village and he says, I have a magic stone and I can make something for us to eat. I need a pot of boiling water. He drops the stone in. Then he says, oh, I'm missing something. I need like something. And someone says, oh, I have a piece of dried carrot. And he's like, yeah, put that in. And someone says, I have 2 cloves of garlic. Oh, put that in. And eventually this entire pot of bubbling soup happens because everyone puts in a piece of what they have. And the stone is not magical at all. It's human involvement. and human contribution to each other that makes the difference. And that is where we are right now in society. We have realized, highlighted by 2020 and the COVID pandemic, that everyone is required to be a part of this process. It's no
Well,
longer
and this is where I'm not sure that I agree with. Opinions are information, and certainly anyone affected by something should have a voice and a say. But
correct.
the idea of what we've currently got, people think their voice is being heard when they cast a ballot in the rigged elections, and the voices aren't actually heard. And and the biggest problem we have, the reason we're so divided, is because even though people allegedly have equal voice, they don't have access to the same information. And since we live in
Right.
a world where secrets are legal and lies are profitable, well, everyone's been deceived into obedience and obediently fighting each other. It's crazy.
Well, the
But I
concept, go ahead.
the point I wanted to remind, we can move beyond the opinions when collectively we truly turn to beings who care about what is true. Because I believe the interpretations, the return of Christ is the symbol of love through man. And so the return of love here on earth will allow God's truth to reign supreme. And we won't have to rely on experts and authority. We'll have people saying, these are the facts, you know, here's what, you know, you can figure out what they mean. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think that's what uh, uh, I mean, the brother Dwight was trying to get into when he was saying that we're moving to the
Yes.
information age,
Yes.
instead of the age that we're in, and by necessity, it's an ever eclipsing rule of experts that's going to come, because the electrician is ruled by the engineer, insofar that the electrician can compartmentalize and put together different systems that the engineer has that the electrician has perfected. And in the same way, the programmer rules over the engineer, because he's able to connect together different automation processes through the use of computers. So this actually creates a greater hierarchical strata, in terms of our technological needs. So that is a type of thing that people call the fourth industrial revolution, that's coming down the pipe now. And that is one of the problems. As Brother Dwight said, the best decisions are made in consensus, and the best democratic unity is found within small groups.
Correct.
It's hard to come to consensus within extremely large groups of people. And the rule of experts and the specialization and compartmentalization of knowledge, it necessarily brings about lack of mutual discussion.
Correct.
These are beautiful conversations. Sincerely. Sorry to interrupt like that, but
No, it's
uh,
all good.
White and Machine Lies, blessings.
And that's what it's about. In my industry, the publishing industry, when I first started this journey, I spoke to about 2 dozen different authors, both traditional published and independent self-published. And from their input, I was able to devise my own strategy. And along the way, I keep meeting gatekeepers, folks who in this industry, and this represents a microcosm of all the other industries where information is hoarded, where, as you said, machine lies, the holding of the power by you not knowing something. One of my friends who is a pediatrician, OBGYN for men, she had a great concept. She said, everyone, when they go to the doctor's office, should have a checklist of their ailments, how they feel, and so forth, already prepared and written down. So when they go in, they say, listen, this is how I feel, and this is what's going on. And now I need your assistance to work with me, to figure out how I can get the help I need. And that is such a revolutionary thought. But I was thinking also, why didn't we have this before? Why are we entrusting all of our patient advocacy to a drug complex, to a medical practitioner who might not have our best interests at heart? And this is part of that information. Yes, some websites are dubious, in terms of how they present the information, but if you can research and find what you need, either medically, financially, spiritually, for your book publishing, it helps you make better decisions. And that is where we are and where we're going.
And this is what I realized. Some of the old adages are true. There really is nothing new under the sun. And those who seek answers, they'll find them. The reality is, the majority of problems we face in life, many of the obstacles and challenges, they may seem insurmountable, but the reality is someone else has already dealt with it. Someone else has already, or if not identical to the situation, something similar enough, like me and my drinking problem. I mean, I'd heard there was other people who had problems with drinking and they were able to get off of it, but I didn't know anyone like that.
Mm.
And I didn't know the right questions to ask. And this is where I think we're living at a time, this information age, we really are flooded. This is a time where it's not a water flood. The flood is information. And so people alive today, they're learning how to navigate and how to discern. But we were born into a world where obedience and selfishness was rewarded. Hey, welcome, El Perro. Good to see you, brother.
Greetings, everybody.
Salutations. Lessons.
Greetings, Dwight. The Machine Lies. How you guys doing? Dwight made a touched on the topic that is paramount in my perception for everybody. If you want your voice to be heard, then you have to have a certain basic knowledge in order to take to like that position of what's actually going on. In our system, modern system today of laws and everything being written down, what we're dealing with is the passing on of the passing of knowledge through an oral history and the oral laws of culture. Now we're writing them down in ambiguous but certain terms, but people think they apply to everybody across the board, and that's a problem. And this is why the oral history is so damn important. The oral history purveys a concept of intuition, instinct, faith, and truth. The truth is the one thing that is missing from every legislative law as it goes to the letter of the law, and then the spirit of the law. The spirit of the law is dependent upon your culture.
Okay.
Correct.
I could see that.
If the spirit of the law is dependent upon your nature, and you're using English is the English language itself, is any language your nature?
Well, how about this?
Think, go ahead, Brother Jack.
I'm sorry, just real quick. If the laws are the result of the inner nature, let's step back and look at how criminal the American laws really are.
Well, that's the effect of the positiveness of law, and that is only based on the negativeness of the actions of people. It's only because of the negative actions that we have to create this positive law, and that's because those that create those commit themselves to those negative actions don't have themselves in their nature the moral compass to literally not only know what's right from wrong, but prevent themselves from doing that in extreme situations, doing wrong things in extreme situations.
Right. We've got a lot of laws on the books because people didn't know how to self-regulate themselves, and then it comes down to the excuse, well, there's no law, nothing prohibiting me from being an asshat and whatever. So,
And nobody addressed the import of the cultural aspect of those morals.
yeah.
Because even on the American soil, we had all these innumerous numbers of native tribes, as they called them.
Mm-hmm.
They all lived a basic concept of life, but tribally they had different nature because economically, if you want to call it that, they lived in different territories. If you lived in the mountains, your economical nature would be automatically culturally different than if you lived in the plains.
We've advanced a lot since then. And at
Absolutely,
the same
but we've also detracted a lot from our true nature in that quote evolvement.
correct. And that's where I see that we have the opportunity. I mean, if we being groups and masses, if we can just realize that what we've got today in America or wherever we're tuning in from, if we can recognize what we've got today, it's not perfect. It's certainly not great, but it needs to change. It's time for humanity to develop greater and better ways of living together. And we can learn from the old ways. Certainly, we can learn from the tribal systems, but we don't have to continue the warring between us.
Yeah, I think you know, what the wizard brought up is an excellent point. And I apologize because I'm having a little bit of a migraine as I do from time to time, but and especially when I look at the computer screen. But but the thing is that you know, I love what he said about the oral law. You know, and you know, back in the day, the oldest person in the village, they used to be the university. You know, the kids used to gather around and they used to learn stories about their tradition. And if you couldn't tell those stories or repeat those stories, then you weren't part of the tribe or the situation that they were in. You know, so the fact is that, you know, we're sending our kids to school to learn false traditions and you know, this fake concept of rights when they're not beholden to each other in any sizable way. You know, so you know, foolish is the man who sends his son to school to learn what the teacher thinks. You know, for sure. You know, we need
Well,
to.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and you make it perfectly clear there with our oral histories. No matter what culture you come from, the oral history was more conjoined with the very young generation and the very old generation, while observing those in the mid range actually carrying out those actions to show the proof of that existence of that oral culture. So the little ones learned by the oral culture of the oldest that explained their experiences. And then the living example was their own parents following that same oral tradition. So this is the studious effect of the spiritual teaching as opposed to a public teaching. That spiritual teaching goes to your culture, and the public teaching is across the board and implied to applied as if though it covers everybody when it doesn't. It's like the Article 1, Section 8, Clause 14 of the Constitution says Congress shall make rules for the government. Then why is everybody else subjected to those rules as if though they're law? Nowhere does it state that it's law. It's rules for the government, and it's enforced through acts, edicts, ordinances, policies, procedures, administrations. It's not law. Law is what's in your heart to know right from wrong.
Correct.
That's it.
That's correct. I think the greatest example is, and of course, respect to everyone who served. You know, being in the military is something that you only have to experience it to know the details about it. But when a soldier is given an order to destroy a village, the general is responsible for giving that order, of course. The soldier is responsible for executing it, and the soldier is the one who has the moral obligation to decide whether or not that bomb should be dropped, whether or not he should fire that bullet. And that's how it is in real life. Government, the ideal government, is one of governance, and it's meant to regulate all the other sciences and keep everything afloat, and so that it makes sense. When you have corruption or nepotism that doesn't work, then you have where the arts are relegated or delegated. Then you have PE in schools, you have home ec is not taught, and so we end up back to where we are, where as adults have to now find their intellectual freedom, find their spiritual awakening on their own without the help of a tribe, without an elder to look up to. When you say rites of passages, everyone draws a dumb look on their face. What's a rite of passage? Is it going to a strip club? Is it opening your first bank account? Is it writing your first book, publishing your first book? Is it going on stage for the first time and giving a speech? What is a rite of passage in today's society? And that is what we need to address, because the tribalism is important and fundamental, but how do we translate it into a technological age where we are still tribal beings? There's still cliques at work. There's still gossiping at work that hurts people's feelings, right? There's no way we can separate the two. We have to find a way to incorporate it so that now we can understand the power of our words, the power of our intentionality, and be able to say, okay, at the work, do you have a succession plan? When Bob retires after 40 years working for the government, who takes his spot? Do we groom someone else? Do we mentor folks? We don't have those in our simple, basic, everyday systems. And that's a failure on our part to plan ahead and to think about sustainability.
Yeah, I think there was an economic model in the world before, and also a psychological model based off of the idea of winning games and producing strategy to win those games. But now there's an increased sense in which everybody, in this global system, there's kind of a global system emerging in which there's a new ecology, because just like back in the day, there was tribes, and those tribes had to follow the rules of their own ecological setting. Now we have a new ecology based on the technological scope, which is now global, and that new ecology has more to do with participation and the sense of participation and observation. It's what people give attention to that actually comes out on top, because everybody's watching everything. There's a sense in which people are, have this disinterested idealism, and they're kind of just watching things unfold. And that leads to this voyeuristic mode where people are just paying attention to things. And also the escapist mode where people think that they can go be doing something else, or something else fun is going on somewhere. So there's this constant unsettling between people that they feel like there's a new mode of psychological engagement at play, and you see this within the cities because the cities are now becoming everywhere. So this urban sprawl creates like these pockets of people where it's like just like in urban setting, there's like these sub niches and groups. There's now that on the internet, there's all these sub genres and subgroups of people that are engaged in all of this information. So the importance of unity and coming back together under that scope, but then also maintaining our own traditions, that's going to be a very difficult issue, to coalesce.
Facts.
Well, I see the path the path I feel inside myself and the path I see before us is mankind uniting. And then we'll figure out how to respect and honor and learn from each other's traditions. We can help unite the similarities I see so much. There is so much happening in this world, and we're at a precipice. There's there's evidence that the sciences have been corrupted, and luckily the right answers are available for us. But we're at a point where science and spirituality show the same result. We're
Correct.
all one. We're all in this together. We're all on this same timeline. So I believe it's the same timeline, could be, it's told in the Bible. That's record in a library of authorship throughout one tribe, right? Um, we're the same story of creation that's happening. And what's going to change this world is each of us, when we start shining in our own way, shining brightly. We can't stay divided like this. This is literal insanity, the way the world is. And so I can't see God allowing that to continue as more and more people are waking up.
Well, the good thing is, and again, thanks to social media, we are now recognizing what is happening locally and internationally. And those are the two main important areas. Locally, when you go out your front door, when you take your kid to school, that is your first territory, right? And this is outside of yourself, spiritually, mentally, physically, financially. But locally is where you have to be strongest. And then internationally, if we start a conversation and say, okay, why is the lithium for our batteries being mined by hand in a distant country in Africa, and we enjoy the benefits of the smartphone? That's a whole nother conversation to unpack. And as simple as when you go on vacation and you go to a beachside resort, do you care if that property has impacted the ecological nature? Do you care if the workers are receiving a good wage? You're on vacation, but are you thinking about that? So that requires everyone to be more accountable for their own thoughts, but be able to understand what you do here impacts someone somewhere, and what impacts them impacts us. Because in a real world, there's no time and there's no distance. It's all exists in one moment.
Yeah, and that goes to that thing I talk about with the supply and demand chain. You know, if we didn't demand it, then we wouldn't have to worry about it so much. But because we demand it and we think we deserve it, we have this supposed entitlement. Because technology is there doesn't mean that we deserve it. We have to play our part in using that technology to our advantage. And in our advantage, we have to be able to comprehend if it is a disadvantage to others, like he's mentioning, Dwight. If it's slave labor, do we really want to buy that product? We hear about this all the time. When we find out somebody's promoting slave labor to produce their products, then all of a sudden there's a boycott. We should be boycotting first and finding out before we engage. Rules of
Consumer
engagement.
information.
Yep.
Here,
Rules of engagement.
thank you. We've created a world that's completely disconnected. We've disconnected from each other. We've disconnected from nature. The consumer is disconnected from the laborer who's producing and sharing the goods. And it's all because of the monopoly game that we were taught to participate in. Hey, Dwight, you are the guest here today. The first guest that was starting off. We've got several others in the background. Sometimes these panels get a little crazy. It's up to you. You okay with flowing with what the universe reveals, or do you want to keep it more close and intimate?
Listen, I appreciate the fact that you have an exit strategy for me, because I'm taking it. I was trying to figure out how best to evacuate the situation without seeming like I'm running from the conversation. My time is required elsewhere, but I appreciate everyone. And Jack, thank you for the shared platform and the space that you've created. And this is what we need more of. I mentioned this earlier. We need more dialogue. We don't have enough dialogue. And of course, after the dialogue, we need action, because faith without works and works without faith, we know how it goes. So
Amen.
hopefully, the more we talk, the more other people listen, the more we get out of our comfort zone, so to speak, because my poetry is not for the other poets. My poetry is for people who don't like poetry. So the wisdom is not for the wise, it's for those who need the knowledge. And of course, like pearls cast before a swine, some folks won't receive it, and that's okay. However, the ones who do, they will. So thank you all
Amen.
for this moment. Your name is too long, so I'll just call you Mr. S. And of course, the machine lies and Jack Talcott. I will say a spoonful of sugar does make the medicine go down.
Amen, brother.
Blessings, everyone.
You can just call me Keith, brother.
Blessings.
Thank you, Keith. Blessings. One love, all. Appreciate y'all so much.
Yeah, one love. Yeah.
Amen. Dwight, sincerely, thank you for joining. I hope I intend, you and I, we're going to become better friends, closer to knowing. And
Oh, yeah.
I forgot to ask Wizard. Wizard's got a book in him. He's got some stories. Anyway, we'll connect again
please,
later.
yes.
Much love to you, Dwight.
Please do. Thank you
And-
so much. Appreciate it so much.
All right. Blessings to you. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in our other guests. My order of arrival. Holy cows. Cats?
Cats.
Yee! Yee!
Cats.
How you doing, brother? Long time no see.
Yes. Welcome.
I'm having fun. I'm in a room full of like 5 cats. This is the best day of my life.
And is that what you came to share?
Yes.
All right.
What other man wouldn't be proud to be in a room with 5 pussies? Come on, Jack. It's supposed to be funny. Come on. Lighten up.
I know.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Smile.
I am.
I'm not going to let you get away with it, Jack.
His name
Smile.
is Shakespeare.
Here it comes. Here
Thank
it comes. Here it comes. Come on,
you.
Jack.
Well, I just don't understand.
I know. Then don't worry about the understanding and just smile for Jesus. Please.
But it's clearly, I mean, it's for his attention. It's not bringing value to what I'm doing.
Well, I'm sorry.
Um,
I'm just trying to lighten the mood.
I know. I appreciate that, and that's what you do, but it's not always what's necessary, what's helpful. But you know what? Hey, we actually, maybe it is time to Jack, lighten up, have some fun. Welcome, Seven. Welcome, Annapurna.
Thank you. Namaste.
Blessings
Namaste.
to you all.
Namaste.
Hey,
That was a really good theme. If you guys want to keep going with that, it was very good.
thank you. Actually, that's kind of what I wanted to get back to. The title, well, regarding the title of the stream, it was in observation of myself. I grew up in a real strict household, lots of rules. So I had to learn how to obey, but I did so from fear. And I developed into this character where I knew how to adapt and not get seen. But as I got older, all I wanted to do was defy. If there was a rule, I wanted to break it for no other reason than I could. So I think we all go through these periods. These are life lessons. We have to learn how to obey. And at the same time, we've got to learn when to defy. Because when we learn when to obey, when to defy, we learn how to abide by ourselves. Makes
Yeah,
sense?
I heard this quote from the Diamond Sutra, and it says the mind that abides nowhere must eventually come forth. And I think that really like mind is such a thing that actually it actually abides
Mind is
nowhere, but it
outside not just inside the
exactly.
body.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
mind is the thought. The thought. It's
And the
anything you
yogis
can.
would go so far as to say that the body, physical body, would be inside the mind and not vice versa.
right. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I love where you were going with that. The mind. What did you say
That
again?
dwells nowhere must
Yes,
eventually arise.
the mind that dwells nowhere must eventually arise. That's along the lines of inspiration I received from A Course in Miracles today. The reminder that no, my thoughts are not real, but the real thoughts, right? The real thoughts that are united with God, those are real. So the key is to learn the difference between my thoughts and God's thoughts, because only the true thoughts are real. And the true thoughts will be shared because they come from the one mind. It's the thoughts that I keep within me that others don't agree with. Does that make sense? It's hey, back to it. The one mind will share itself.
But even those thoughts are not supposed to be your own, truly. Even the ones that remain when no one else is there, because they wouldn't arise without any exterior stimulus. So they aren't truly our own.
No, they're information to guide us. I think that's what
Well,
I'm
I
thinking
like
on.
to
well,
look at it that way.
think about the concept when you're outside and you're watching the clouds go by and you see a particular shape in the cloud that signifies something else. You know, that's a thought, and that's the mind. That's how the mind works. You can see things that aren't there, and you cannot see things that are there. It's a very strange world.
It's amazing. Our creator is so perfect, so infinite in its design that we are the result. And I'm just amazed. Today, again, I was allowed time for prayer, meditation. You know, I had some free time, so I spent uh, time in bliss and pleasure with massage, feeling the way the muscles will adapt and cooperate. They just unwind and loosen, and it brings forth such pleasure. And then I just have to be in awe about the design of our bodies. I mean, the thought sincerely comes often, praise God the Father in heavens, and praise the motherly divine that brings forth the form. Oh, that reminds me of like an esoteric idea regarding the principles of masculine and feminine. As I was playing with those ideas of the heavenly father, the earthly mother, the natural mother, does the feminine energy, is that what creates the limits in our relationships? I think it is.
What exactly creates the limits in our relationships? Can you articulate it one more time?
I believe one of the strengths of the feminine principle is the ability to accept. Now, the woman in a relationship will set the limit of what she will accept in the household and for the family.
Oh,
The
correct.
man kind of pushes.
I get it. Like a boundary. Yeah.
Yes, boundary. Yes, beautiful. Not a limit, a boundary. That's what women do. So, but then women don't just place the boundary. They're also like the muse. They uplift and they inspire to push the man, to push the masculine even farther. That's why men are so confused by women.
I think that applies to a woman that has a good head on her shoulders. Let's
Yes,
say that.
yes. I'm
Because there's
talking.
a lot of women acting like men and a lot of men acting like women.
We're
Exactly.
Yes, brother.
Can I pop in?
Please do.
Do you remember that amazing man that was just on talking about the fact uh, uh, that we don't have tribe anymore? Like, especially in the Western world, we're so dissected as family. We move away from each other, and then my goodness, when it gets hard, we want to come back home. We don't have the tribe anymore, and um, like I have my congas behind me, and I'm not going to pound them real hard. It'll mess up the audio. But look at this. This is how we used to communicate across rivers, across valleys when we couldn't run and like tell people that a warring tribe was coming towards us, or they were trying to come take our children and our women. Like we knew how to send messages. And we can't do that anymore. And like the Irish in us, or the German, the French, we've all been so diluted that we don't remember that we're supposed to remember that we are a tribe. I mean, we're gonna look at like Rihanna or Chris Brown or rock stars to show us music when the music is in us and we inherited it from our forefathers and from exactly what everybody here is talking about. And that guy that was on here, when he spoke about the fact that we've lost our tribe, and Jack, the fact that you accepted me back here today after the fact that you saw me show that I don't have a tribe. I'm out here like floundering, but I'm watching the sky. I mean, look as I do this because the simulator is out there right now. It's so hot out there. I don't want to go outside. Like, I watch the sky and I'm supposed to be on the hill, but I belong here because maybe we are starting a new tribe.
That's been my hope. I mean, my story is what it is. I found myself on a spiritual path, and it's been pointed out to me many times that allegedly a prophet is rejected from his hometown. So, okay, I've been rejected
Right.
from my town. I'm trying to build community. And I found others like that too.
Well, there's also this, again, I'll always go back to yoga, but the understanding is that we cycled through 4 ages: the golden, the silver age, the bronze age, and the iron age. And we're supposed to be in the iron age right now. And the understanding is that those who are pure will not be on top. They're on top in the golden age, whereas in the iron age, they're supposed to be on the bottom. And society is supposed to be at a degenerate level because that is the perfect environment for one's spiritual evolution. Like if we had, I'm not saying we shouldn't, but if we had everything, like a good family, a good home, good upbringing, everything, everything was perfect, we had our tribes, I don't think we would even value what it was to have that, because to value something, you need to not have it. And I mean, you could go either way, but this is a perfect building ground for people who do want to have a healthy family, people who do want to ascend spiritually. In fact, it's supposed to get so accelerated and chaotic that we pine to leave, that just come and take me. I don't want to live anymore. And
How did you,
that's supposed to be the rejection of the material world and the first step to looking within. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, oh, how did you know that? Man, the last couple of weeks, the last couple of days, everybody quits at work, but I stay late. I show up early. My son left after pointing a gun. Like my son pointed a gun in my face 2 weeks ago because I turned off the video games. And I kind of wish that he'd pulled the fucking trigger. And I've spoken to a few people about that, and they've told me, you coward sack of shit, don't say that to me again. And these are people that I talk to on my channel, and many of them are older, like they're sick. Like, man, like there are a lot of people that would give anything to not be praying for death. But I've noticed what you just said. It's like we want release, but what Jack is helping me realize is that we gotta stay in the fight. Those of us that understand that we're all going somewhere better and that we can't take nothing with us. Those of us that are recognizing that maybe we do more harm than good, but we're trying to change our act. It's like, take me home right now. That's exactly what Jack is doing right now. Is no, we're supposed to be here, and we're supposed to probably do some shit like Steve Olson, my wonderful, beautiful friend, and a bunch of us used to talk about, which is get our shit together and team up. But yeah, praying for death, asking to get out of here. Nah, man, we're not allowed to do that right now. And I know people who've committed suicide successfully and come back and they're indwelt. Like you don't get out of here without something getting up in here because of what you know what I'm saying? So I'm really proud. I'm so honored that you spoke about that because we're not supposed to leave this yet. We're the ones who are going to help change it. Shit.
I think to truly help change it, though, we must go through the ego death. And it's not must. We get to surrender our ego, get to surrender our fears, our hates.
What
And
are these swords? Sorry, I'm interested in the swords being shown.
Um, well, I actually what Jack is talking about. Okay, these swords. My whole life, I was a very abused kid, and I took martial arts and I'm mixed. So everywhere I go, I get beat up by two black guys one day, three white dudes the next. I don't even know. So I want to protect myself, and I'm trying to show myself and other people that he's talking about, that like you were speaking about the age of iron. And it's like what Jack is helping me learn is I'm going to have to put these things down. You know, I'm going to have to put my ego down. That's what he was beginning to speak about, actually. You know, like even though I want to be tough, I want to protect everything that I have, and I don't want anything to be taken from me. The age of iron, it's only going to last so long. But in the meantime, but in the meantime, and he just stepped out for a minute, which is cool. Like I've got a couple of swords, and I do believe that we're gonna. I think what's great about Jack's channel is we're not talking about the end of the world. You know, big channels do that every day, and they make big bucks, and then the next day they're making another video on the end of the world. But it never hurts to know how to fucking look out, check your six, and have something that, you know, I mean, maybe we're about to leave the age of iron, but folks, people like us, we might need to just remember it never
Well,
hurts to be sharp.
right, and even the scripture says a man shall sell his cloak to put up a sword. And the same concept on the obverse, the polar dynamic of that, is Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, to defeat one's opponent without fighting is of supreme excellence. So it is a matter, again, taking the battles as needed. If it's not needed to battle, then find another solution. The battle is the last solution.
Most difficult. I don't know how many humans have realized that, but I think that's from The Art of War, what you said, Keith.
Yes, Sun Tzu's Art of War.
I have that book.
And the machine lies, what is that? A Punjabi sword? What is that?
It's just yeah, it's kind of like it looks like one of those Punjabi ones. Yeah, it's definitely made from that area. But yeah,
Well, I mean, it's
yeah, I love the quote by the samurai, who said, "I know not how to defeat my enemy, but only what it takes to defeat myself. So I'm undefeated." So I really like that, and I love what the brother was saying about parables. In terms of looking at the nature, as fables. And I think one of the most powerful ones is seen in the lion, where the lion, he doesn't really chase around small prey, and a lion is out for the hunt, or he's playing. So if we could maintain that when we're not 100% in hunt mode, we're 100% in play mode. So a lion will go from 0 to 100. And it's the same with the spider, where the spider's whole um you know plan of attack is to just have its enemy show up to where it is by remaining super still. you know so I guess laying yourself open for attack to expose the intentions of your attackers. I mean, that's a good strategy as well.
Hey, there's something to consider with this, though. Many people, especially the men, were taught to be warriors and less focus on growing the gardener, growing the philosopher, growing the artist. And that's kind of how I was raised. In some regard, was a man is a warrior, willing to sacrifice himself and willing to become nothing for others. But what we really are, when we rise above the beast, above the tendency to be the beast, we are the peacekeepers. And when we feel vulnerable, that's when we attack and defend. And the world taught us to feel like like we are vulnerable, like we're in danger. And then we've given away our freedom and our liberties in the illusion of safety and comfort.
But that
So,
wouldn't be a true warrior, would it?
no, it wouldn't. And that's kind of the paradox. Here, myself as the example. Welcome, Jesse. Hey, Jesse, actually, well, we had a guest earlier. I mentioned him to you. I'd like to do an introduction with you two. I think he could be a good guest if you've got a slot opening up later.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, man. We're booking in August right now, but whenever a next available spot I think it's August 15th is our next available open date.
Beautiful. What do you have? 2, 3 of them today?
2 today, and we just interviewed Carrie Cassidy, which finished an hour ago. There's over 1,700 people watching it live right now.
Smack.
Yeah,
nice, dude.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the blonde girl with dreadlocks. That's more more my avenue there.
That was the first interview today.
Oh, okay.
What is it? Is it the TikToker? Don't tell me. You got hold of her?
No, I sent her an interview, like a request, that TikToker one, and her team got back to me and said that our show isn't in alignment with their stuff. So
Yeah, it means you don't have enough followers for her to care.
Hey, if we can bring it back to
Yeah, Jack, I actually want to add to what you were saying because
please.
So this is how the warrior training is described in the Vedas. And I mean, like, this is not happening today, right? I just want to make that clear in India or anywhere. I don't see this happening today. And my work is mostly with indigenous people. And what we're doing right now is attempting to bring back these knowledge lodges that the Machine Lies was talking about. He said that you would sit around and listen to, that was a university, isn't that what he called it? So that was my upbringing. I did go to school, but came from a generation that my grandparents cared enough about our learning to pass on all of that in like after school classes that they informally created for no pay, I might add. They just created a network of grandparents and transmitted this knowledge. But that isn't happening today. I do have a few students that come to learn from me, but there's no like knowledge keeper house anymore. And that's true for many indigenous people that I'm working with. Many have had to move to the city for money. Simply, like, money is the name of the game. And their kids think that there's no future in that community because, well, if I have to make money for myself, I have to get out of here. I have to go to the city. I have to make a living, become a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, and that's what's going to give me money and sustainability. So their communities are being broken up, and my effort, along with everyone else's, is to recreate a knowledge house in every community that can be once more the bastion of wisdom to be
Yeah,
transmitted across
yeah,
generations.
we're being dissected. We're being eaten alive. And that's why. And I'll drop it, but I won't drop it. Back to the sword. It's like we don't need swords, but we better damn well be the sword because they're they're eviscerating the family. They are. It's like for the last couple of years I research predation in Africa, and I also study words about how we cut each other apart, and 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 it's starting in the cities. It's Hunger Games now. I mean, I mean, like you're talking about families that they boast to all of themselves about how they have a $500,000 house and all their kids are going to great colleges, but they are all so in debt, and they all would eat their neighbor if the lights went out for 2 days. They'd be eating each other's dogs and cats. While people like us, it's like we're starving now to learn how to slow down. We're healing time, and I just love being in this panel tonight. I mean, I'm amazed at the fact that we are gaining the poise. And by the way, we haven't spoken about the sky a lot during this video, but uh, anybody who looked up at sunrise to sunset, you see the three suns. You see what's happening in the sky. Nah, you know, men's hearts will fail at what they see in the sky, but ours won't.
Hey,
You
Jack,
know,
real quick here. You got to
I
chat.
I
You got
sorry.
I
you.
see it. I
Yeah.
see it. I'm trying to take care of it.
Thank you.
Southern holy crap. I guess shame on me. I took it. Nope, there we go. My apologies to all of the disruption.
Mhm.
And I apologize for second guessing Daisy May. The amount of disrespect that's offered to me, and that nobody seems to really, I guess it's just Jack's got to deal with it. Um,
No, Jack, I apologize to you. I didn't know.
no,
I mean,
hey, it's this is the life. Here's what I get. Southern gal, I hope you had fun. I hope you're prideful. I hope you got a little glee and you fucking sleep like a champ tonight,
yeah.
causing disruption to the people who have been here. And my apologies to those who did join. Although, yeah.
Can I
Shame
say
on you.
something, Jack? I mean, this
Please.
is what happens. Like, okay, it's not the 6G anymore. It's a 7G or a fucking 12G, and they're microwaving us. The next, they're called NexRad and Doppler systems. They're all over the country, and it starts every day at about sunset until sunrise. And literally, I mean, I can go ahead and say it right now. It's really cool to do this. I'll be mad at somebody and I'll text them and email and think that they're my worst enemy. And damned, once sunrise rises again and the sky's clear and there's not tornadoes, I realize that they were trying to help me. It's like Bob Marley's song, Who the Cat Fit. Who the cat fit. Let them wear it. It's like
What is what
your
is
worst enemy could be your best friend, and your best
okay?
friend,
What is the
the worst.
7? Where are you taking us? Where you land in this?
Well, I land in the sky. I mean, I'm a
Well, I mean
sky
the
watcher.
conversation, the topic.
Well,
I was
just
trying to
how
recover. I was trying to recover from what I was just dealing with, and then you're taking us off on some song and
no,
dance, and suddenly I don't know
no,
what you're
I'm
doing.
talking about. Okay, I'm talking about the fact that you're reacting to somebody that just stabbed you in the back.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. I'll listen to you. Sorry.
Well, honestly, I'm
We're talking
frustrated.
about warriors. Like what
Mhm.
makes a true warrior? That's what we were talking about. And you were talking about the dichotomy between learning gentle things, for lack of a better word, and then learning like the tough things, and how males have been restricted to only the tough part of training in the name of being a warrior.
And that's why I was expressing earlier that it's so damn important to understand that there is another way. You can defeat your opponent without fighting. So in these chat comments and stuff, rather than getting all butthurt and commenting back and forth, just don't fucking respond. You already beat them. Go ahead, Jack.
So we live in a world that has become completely backwards. I mean, we live in a world of reflections and refractions, and the world is quite confused. Men don't know how to be men, women don't know how to be women, and yet both genders are running around telling each other what to do. And the contradiction, which you pointed out, Anna, is I was raised that a man has to fight and be tough. And at the same time, I allowed myself to comply and to obey. I became so afraid of breaking the rules, of being, missing a deadline, or, I was so afraid of the consequences and so worried about being obedient to other people's rules because, well, in the military, obedience is glorified, right? It's insanity.
And may I ask if they ever tried to like give you drugs for it, like Adderall, or I think they even like to prescribe Prozac. But I noticed that, I don't know if this is true, but out here, when somebody goes to the VA, they keep asking them, like, do you need anxiety medication? Do you need, like, are you depressed? Do you need this? Do you need that? So did they ever try to dope you up?
I didn't seek help. I was a tough guy and didn't need any help. But
Oh, wow.
what you're saying, I worked at the post office. I saw the medication. The VA pumps out so much medication every single month to all the servicemen and women. Why? Well, many of them are suffering moral injuries. They've experienced and done things that broke and violated their moral conscience, and they don't know how to heal because we live in a world that profits from disease and, treating symptoms. All of these broken servicemen and women, they are a symptom of a broken nation. And the nation is broken because of divided leadership. We have men and women The economic system of capitalism, financial reward, profits, and debts, it creates a moral dualism within our mind. It creates the illusion of two different masters. It's the entire government and corporate system.
Did you
They've
see
been
Combat?
No, I did not. I was blessed.
Okay, thank God. Okay.
Yes.
as
Thank
well
God.
as well as Jack, on top of the stuff that the servicemen have to do, they pump them full of drugs and injections and get them dependent on all these, make them all crazy inside with all the stuff that they're injected with, so when they come back they could fill them with more drugs, keeping the strong men who could stand up to the tyranny all fucked up, and not actually even being able to do something about the craziness that's happening, because they're too worried about their next fix or whatever it is that getting them dependent on all these drugs.
It's a nature of the economic system we've got. And I don't know how it's going to happen, but I know right now, under the current logistics, technology, under what is available publicly, we could very easily, if we decided collectively, we could very easily transition to a world beyond money, where education, like Anna and Machine Lies were
That's
talking.
supposed to be, right? We're not supposed to be working to live.
Hey guys,
Correct.
can I talk for a minute?
Please do.
This is cool because I worked with ex-army. He was a, a a forward scout. He was like one of the people that I don't even know. I don't even say. And I have a video with him. I work with him. He was a ranger. I want to go back for a minute, by the way, to a really important part where I should not have said anything. Jack, it was in reference to people attacking you. It was happening during the chat. And then I started to talk for a little bit. And then I guess kind of a time thing happened because, folks, we are being like bled through the particle colliders. There are over 30,000 of them, and they're warping time as we speak. And why I like being here is because sometimes the frequency, like if you've seen movies with the Hulk and they're waving stuff through him, but he fights through it, but he gets hit. And I watched it happen because Jack was talking about how we got to lighten up on him. We got to get off his ass and get off of all of each other's asses. And the world's not doing that for us. And we'll be here, but we're learning how to do it for each other. Number one. Number two, Havana syndrome. Okay, Havana syndrome. Folks, that's some X-Man shit. All right, it's X-Man. It's happening to all of us, and the government is telling the media to let all of us know that particular people in the government or specialists or spies are having their minds fucked with. Nah, they're letting us know that we are having our minds fucked with and waved. And the Hulk and us, a peaceful little Bruce Banner. So, and the last thing, and then I'll give it back to you is I watched it happen. I watched Jack start to talk about something that shouldn't be happening with us. We should all be so on point and growing our asses up real fast, real quick. And yet it happened. It's happening right now. And I've been taking notes the whole video. It's like our minds are probably right now. And I'm going to say this and then shut up. I'm so glad that I'm here. But halfway through the video, I'm concerned about the sky or my bills, and I'll fight and I'll not listen to Jack. But then I'll listen to more of you, and I'm back to peace because of Jack. This is really cool to see this happening. It really is, because people don't realize what they're doing to our fucking minds right now, especially us.
You're not alone on that sentiment, Seven.
Jack, how's things been going for you?
Well,
Hey,
got it.
Jack, can I tell that story that I was going to tell about the warrior?
Please do.
So, I want to know if everybody here is familiar with the caste system in India, or the so-called.
The Brahmins.
Right. So that was, the word is varna in Sanskrit, and varna simply means like your occupation or what you dedicate yourself to. And it was never a birth-based system, but when the British colonized India, they needed like something to hold on to create control in classes so that they could align themselves with the upper class. I believe the name is Dale Caldwell. He was a missionary sent. I believe he was even part of the Royal Society of London and all that. But he came up with the caste system as we know it, as in, like, there's an elite and then there's an untouchable class. But the caste system wasn't by birth; it was by like you had to, like, what you grew to be, what was your potential. So if you were someone who was predisposed to critical thinking, maybe spirituality, spiritual studies and understanding, then you became a Brahmin. But you need not have been born to Brahmin parents. That would like totally negate the point of it. And if you displayed like very good warrior like tendencies, then you became a Kshatriya, which is a warrior class, so on and so forth. But it was never fixed. Like, you could, even if you are at this high Brahmin state, you can fall to the state of an untouchable because you became degenerate within yourself rather than, oh, you were born into. And then even if you're an untouchable, you can rise. And there's a beautiful story. So about 1,500 years ago in India, they were still practicing this corrupted caste division.
I got to get out there. I got to get out to the sky. I'll see you guys. I love you all. I think I might need to get out to that sky. Fuck.
All right. Thank you, Seven.
So the story is that this person who was born as an untouchable, he craved so much the blessing. He was so devoted, he wanted to enter the temple. And the Brahmins at that time, yes, in some twisted fashion, they were colonizing the access to the temple, and he wasn't allowed. So what he was able to do is gain access to like outside of the temple. And what was that? Anyway, he was able to gain access to a vantage point outside the temple, and his only desire is to have one sight of the divine. Now, yes, the divine is not going to be in any form, but the unique thing about Indian temples is anywhere a temple is built, it is because something spontaneous has occurred in nature. Later on, they codify it, they build structures around it. But initially, for the first few thousand years, people are just bringing offerings into a spot in nature that they have detected is holy, because there's a spontaneous spring and there's a rock formation that's come about that they can feel. There's a lot of life force energy or chi around. So that's what attracts them to create a sacred space. And later on, people make it a temple mostly for monetary purposes, because you can collect devotion. And so the Brahmins have said this man is not allowed entry, and he's found a vantage point outside, and he's craving like this one. He just wants to see this one rock formation that has enormous spiritual significance. It means like it's like the primordial form of life itself. And he's wanting to witness that. And in every temple that this formation is there is a cow. There's a statue of a cow right in front of it. So if you're outside, you can't see directly because it's the cow is the first devotee. She Anywhere that one of those rock formations pops up, it's where a cow has spontaneously given milk. So that's why the cow is there, the significance of the cow being there. And the cow, it's a statue. It's not a real cow. It gets up and it moves so that the man can get a view of the stone, of the primordial like representation of life. And that temple is there today. It's the only temple where you can see the cow sitting at one side rather than right in front of the temple. So that's proof that an untouchable can rise to any status, and the people at the top, the Brahmins, can fall. And these are written down. This story is 1,000 years old. There are many more like that. So the point I'm trying to make is that even to touch a weapon like a bow and arrow, you have to be a Brahmin first. And what does that mean? What does the word Brahmin mean? It means someone who's unselfish, not greedy, doesn't seek personal gain, and is of a pure nature. So you had to pass that test before you get to touch a bow and arrow. And I think in our modern day and age, we're eager to put guns in hands and get people on the field rather than develop their character. And these people were out in the wilderness developing their character for 18 years. And for years, you're not even allowed to shoot because you're just adjusting your stance. And there's sorry, go ahead, Wizard.
Yeah, if you don't mind, that's absolutely the way I see it as well, with these officers that we have patrolling the streets at such a young age. How is it that we've come to this great mass of society that believes it's intelligence to let a 22-year-old tell a 60-year-old man what he can and can't do according to some law? That's immoral.
Right. As a law enforcement, right? That's what you're saying.
Correct. And the process we're speaking about is the way I see it again is that process of ascending through gaining more and more knowledge.
Right. And I just want to finish, there is a story of archery, how archery was being taught. And at this point, the boys are 9 and it's their first time holding the bow and arrow. So from age 4 or 5 to age 9, they've been in the wilderness learning how to be self-sustainable. They are learning how to grow their own food, but they're also learning, if they've come from a royal identity, they're living a very humble life out there. They're foraging for berries, they had to provide for themselves, and they're studying these spiritual concepts. So at age 9, they're ready to hold a bow. The teacher's going around correcting everyone's stance, and he asks each student, what do you see? Tell me what you see before you let the arrow go. And it's hard to hold a stance. If you pull back the string of a bow and arrow, especially a hunting bow, it's has a lot of poundage. So it's not easy to maintain the stance as he's going around and correcting everybody. So they've come to that level of expertise. And each student is saying, well, I see the sky. They're shooting at a bird's eye. Each student saying, I see the sky, I see that bird, I see the tree, I see the branches of the tree, the leaves. Okay, next student, what do you see? I see the tree, the ground, the grass. And finally, he gets to the last student, who is basically a hero of the Bhagavad Gita, the Gita. And he says, what do you see? And he says, I see the bird's eye. And he's the only one who's allowed to shoot. He says, okay, you can let go of the arrow, shoot. And he hits the bird's eye. So that nuance I just wanted that story, that nuance is what was, what a teacher did while training warriors. And this guy was going to fight in a war.
Great.
So he even like this, there's a whole discourse of should I fight? When should I fight? Why can't
Anna,
Go ahead.
please, I'm sorry to interrupt. There's lots of stories all throughout the past, and there's lots of stories of war and preparing, but I don't understand what your point is.
The point is you were never a warrior alone. You had
Great.
to be a whole
Thank
man before
Okay.
you held a bow and
Mhm.
arrow or a
Okay.
and
According to that
one last
system.
thing, the bow and arrow wasn't just a bow and arrow. I mean, the story goes that one arrow had the potential to destroy a city. So I don't know what kind of weapon that is. But there is a place for a warrior in a man. There's by no means should we neuter our men, but we need to develop whole men, not just put guns in hands and obedience, like you say, obedience is just thrust upon us and we're expected to obey and move forward and hold everything inside. So I want to credit you and say you did the best you could, and even more than maybe other people did around you with what you had. So you're here today, you made it, and you're balanced enough to have a conversation and create this space. So that itself is nothing short of a miracle, but that should have never happened to you.
Okay,
Okay.
Jack, you have a great evening. It was good seeing you again. Keep up the good work, man. Nice
Thank
seeing
you,
y'all.
Jesse. Appreciate it, brother. I am ready to shut down, actually. So, any other final words from others? I'll give my last words on my own, please.
Jack, you know I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. So have a good night. May God bless you. I'll see you again next time, Jack.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one.
Yeah, God bless and thank you.
Any other thoughts? Sophia, you were kind of, I don't know if you even had a chance to say anything, but
No, that's okay. I didn't really want to say anything. I just liked the people that you had on panel, and I thought it would be an honor to be on panel with them. I did want to interact with Seven a little bit, but he had to go, and I understand. And thank you very much, and God bless you all.
blessings to you. Thank you, Sophia. I appreciate you. Snafu, I see you in the back. I'm not going to bring you up today. Machine Lies, you still there?
Yes. Yeah, I heard you were shutting down, so I thought I'd pop in here real quick. Yeah. I wanted to touch on some of the things that the brothers and sisters said, about warrior stuff. I think Chogyam Trungpa says a warrior's decency is a lack of strategy. And I always thought that was a brilliant quote. In terms of, the all plans are subject to collusion, so we need to be unplanned as well. We need spontaneity. We need to find the goodness and spontaneity and in surprises. And I will leave you guys with this. It says, and this is about obey and abide, and that sort of thing. It says in chapter 63 of the Tao Te Ching, act but through non-action. Be active but have no activities. Taste but have no tastes. Have no preferences. In other words, it says, no matter how great or small, many or few repay resentment with virtue. Plan for what is difficult while it is easy. Work at what is great while it is small. The difficult undertakings in the world all start with what is easy. The great undertakings in the world all begin with what is small. That is why the sage, that's why the sages never work at great things and are able to achieve greatness. Those who easily enter into promises always prove unworthy of trust. Those who often think that many things are easily, regularly are easy regularly encounter difficulties. Excuse me. And so sages consider things difficult and in the end are without difficulties. Thank you. And blessings to all. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thank you for joining. Appreciate you, brother. The I really do appreciate everyone who joined today, especially our spontaneous guest, Dwight Thompson, the Right Warrior. He's new to this group, new to this panel, and I thought he brought some beautiful perspectives, and I think we had some great conversations. Well, others. Unfortunately, I see a missed opportunity. I see a missed opportunity quite often with what I'm trying to share. I mean, what I'm trying to share is truly spiritual freedom, helping to encourage and inspire others to set their egos aside, because we can spend all our lives learning and planning and talking about, but it's the implementation and it's the execution that's really, really important. And I know the narratives about me and I know the perceptions of me because I'm consistently here. Well, there's a lot more that I'm doing and trying to accomplish behind the scenes. And one of the things we talked about is the fact that I am continuing to try and build community, online or offline. Why? Because I believe through the messages of love, what I'm offering sincerely is a faith in God that we can walk in love together, starting today, starting here and now. We don't have to continue these stupid games of playing warrior, playing punisher, playing judge, playing prosecutor. I mean, that's the ways of the defier. Controlling others is not how we live. The best way to live, what's really going to overcome the limitations of the past and the problems of today, is when we cooperate. When we cooperate with Mother Nature, that's the way new innovations, new things are developed. When we cooperate with each other, that's the way new ideas, new innovations are developed. Because we are all vessels of information. We're all stories that are being created and we're being told. But there's a lot of painful stories happening right now. There's, in my mind, there's the faces and voices I have seen in the news. There are men and women in harm's way right now, let alone the neglect of our elderly that's common in the Western world. People are just shoved off into retirement homes or left to pay for their medication and their rent and everything else all on their own. We've got a lot of people being pushed away and shoved into cells, daycare centers, retirement homes, prison cells. And beyond the modern world, the Western world, there's refugee camps, there's detention camps. This stuff is happening right here and now. We learned about the atrocities of World War II and the stuff that was happening in history. Hello, McFly. Hello. Have you seen the news? Have you seen what's happening today? The descent of humanity, the collective morality, it has descended so far. But I pray and I trust that we are the solution that our ancestors were praying for. We are the ones who we have been praying for. We are the saviors of our own life when we choose with the conscious choice, with the power, the will that we have been given to no longer obey the fears, obey the temptations, obey the rules and the ideas of others, not without thought. See, because a true man, a true woman abides by what is true, what is righteous, what is moral, what is loving, what is kind. Those are the attributes we can all grow within ourselves. And brothers and sisters, if this is real, well, what I'm doing today, what these conversations are, these are the ground floor. Because if you'll join me, whoever you are, whether you join today on the panel, you join today in the comments and the streams, or if you catch these conversations at a later time, if you join with me, we are here to bring the world into the new ways of living. And the new ways of living are the natural ways of living, because we will all lovingly abide by the common laws, the natural laws that are written on our heart. Do no harm. Don't corrupt yourself. Don't weaken your integrity with excuses or blame. Walk proudly and strongly with the truth who you are. Not the truth you believe, but the truth who you are. And who you are, who I am, we are the children of God. So I'm going to bounce out. Sincerely, thank you again to all who joined. And please do the subscribe thing, hit the notifications, and or at least check in again in the future. We'll see what the future brings. And until next time, choose love, peace for everyone, and live without fear. Thank you again, and God bless us all.